Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Mindful Merchants Live. Today, our special guest is MEL, back from Burnout.
Hello, hello.
And of course, you guys all know my co-host, Louie, the Lone Star Picker.
Hi, guys. I'm Louie. That's Luis over here, and this is Mel. And she's come all the way from Australia just to be here with us today.
Yep.
But she's still there. She never leaves. Would you like to introduce yourself, Mel, and let everybody? I know they're just going to start coming in a minute here, and we got Regina here. We just want to say welcome, Regina, so far.
Hello, Regina. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Mel, go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know what your YouTube handle is.
Okay. Well, my name is Mel, and my handle is Back from Burnout. I am a reselling mum in Australia. I've got 4 kids, and I sell on eBay full-time. And, yeah, my YouTube channel is Back from Burnout, and I talk about different topics to go with not only eBay but business, I guess, and also, sharing tips for eBay beginners, tips for resellers, and just daily vlogs and videos of my reselling journey. So, yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of sharing. I mean, that's a lot to go over because that's like going down a rabbit hole almost, you know.
Yep.
Well, we have somebody by the name of Braun Bowman. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate you.
Braun's house that I'm in.
Hey, Braun, thank you for taking care of Mel. Oh,
yes, thank you.
We really appreciate you doing that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. And under the circumstances, I know you mentioned a little bit, and everybody, if they want to figure that out, they can go to your Instagram and watch on your channel. I'm sure you're going to tell them a little bit more. But you're out of town. It sounds like you're not where you normally are. And we're going to just, we're going to kind of talk about something today. I think we're going to kind of step out of our boundaries. I wanted to invite you on, Mel, because I watched one of your lives. I think, and I've addressed this with you, is that you talked about how to avoid, I want to say avoid, however you want to put it, lack of a better word, how to avoid stress.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me, how to avoid negativity. And as a form of negativity, I wanted to talk about how to handle stress, especially during this last part of fourth quarter. So negativity is something big. I think a lot of us might want to dance around with, or maybe even want to avoid as resellers, because this is not just strictly for resellers. It's even just us as resellers being aware of other people or folks that are around us that cause that negativity that can lead to our own stress, which can affect our business, So maybe we can dance around some of those topics today a little bit.
No worries.
And one of the questions was, so Luis has a wife that's a nurse, and you want to ask that one question I was talking to you about, Luis? We were talking about in terms of the SAD.
Yes, about the SAD. What does that particularly fall under? Like, is that something that's a lot going on down where you're at right now, like in the Australia area?
Yeah. We were wondering. Do you know about SAD? It's seasonal affective disorder. Does that often?
I have heard of seasonal affective disorder. Now that you say it like that,
Yeah.
What's that?
Sorry to throw that at you, because we were curious, because we know you're in a whole different region of the world, and I'm thinking it's a pretty sunny place a lot of the time, and we were wondering, but also there's different forms of SAD. They call it a seasonal affective disorder, and some of it can be affected by like the sunlight and whatnot, how people get it or not. But is that something that's big there?
I definitely believe that you can get that. Like, I definitely believe that if you're a real summer person and then you come into winter, your whole mood can go down. I think where I live, we get kind of really all the 4 seasons. So I don't notice it so much where I am, but I think that you really notice it when you come up to the other states that are kind of sunny all the time. When they come down to like the colder states, like where I am, they don't like it. Their mood drops, So I definitely think being in the sun does pick you up, because I'm up here at the moment on Gold Coast, which is about a 13-hour drive from where I normally live. And like, it's hot. This is the top of Australia, so it's hot up here. And but it definitely does give you a whole different mood when you are out in the sun and you can go for a walk down the beach, and like it really does pick you up. So I definitely agree that it can affect some people. That would be a thing.
I was just more curious, like specifically in your country, is that something that's talked about, or is it maybe not as obvious, or just maybe not? Because it seems like we hear about that a lot more in the States, and specifically, like if you're from Alaska, which is a whole different part of the of the earth, where the darkness could be like 12-hour long days, and I always hear about, like, on the East Coast of the United States, like people from New York during the winter, they want to get out, so they go to Florida, and that way they can get their sunlight or just to escape, people from the Midwest.
I mean, I don't hear it talked about a lot here. I know definitely in the winter, people down where I am, they're like, oh, we want to go up and have a holiday up in sunny Queensland or whatever. But no, it's not that I hear talked about a lot, as in it's like a real thing affecting people as such.
I think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Luis, I don't know, or anybody in the chat there too. We're going to stop in a second and say hi to a few more people, because quite a few people just dropped in. I think another aspect of the seasonal affective disorder, they call it SAD, is that, it does have some effect of like where sunlight, we know that there might be a scientific reason behind why that is. But I think also seasonal, meaning depending on the seasons, it could be also like a nostalgic thing that triggers people, So it may just be, let alone, the dark, could be one aspect that kind of triggers somebody, where it could lead to the depression and whatnot, which kind of brings me to another question coming up here. And so we're talking about stress as a form of negativity. And I don't know if you've noticed any of it coming up as a reseller into this fourth quarter, and we're already halftime through it. Have you noticed anything peculiar that you're experiencing in terms of observations of that, in terms of stress?
Fourth quarter. I think that, and I don't know if it's for you guys in America, but in Australia, the last month has been quite low sales for everybody here at eBay. And I can feel stress within the community of Q4 not living up to the expectations that everybody has. So then I think because Q4...
Paint a little bit right when I'm done, okay?
Just paint. It does, if your sales don't hype up with that hype, it does bring you down, and then you've got to kind of pull back into that mojo. And I've definitely noticed that within the Australian community, low sales is bringing everyone down. Where's the Q4? Where's the exciting bump in sales that we've all been waiting all year for?
Yeah. That's a good observation. The reason I ask is, whether it's there, but I also just notice in the resale community, whenever there's that fluctuation, and it doesn't necessarily have to stem around fourth quarter. And I guess I just want to talk about stress just in general. But hopefully, I'm just mentioning it in light of fourth quarter, just in case it is affecting anybody. But I think these are practical takeaways that if we're going to remain conscious, part of being mindful is being aware. And so if we can take this month to month, and bring it through our weekly aims into our, our goals and whatnot for the month, I think it's something that's good to always just be reflective, know when to step back, know when there's, times that you just need to take care of yourself for whatever reason. Like stress can come in different aspects. It can come body, come in the mind, it can come in spirit, so emotionally people can get like a nostalgic kind of like, oh, I don't want to deal with this season because, it reminds me of some family passing or something like that. And, and naturally so, it's going to affect them in an emotional sense. But one thing we had 2 weeks ago, we had Christopher from Daily Refinement here. And I was talking about, as us resellers, we get, so caught up with things. Sometimes we don't even take care of ourselves. And he's like, you got to stop and you got to have a go-to food sometimes.
Yeah.
So that leads me to another question. And Luis was like, that's a good question, Wes. Yep. Are there any healthy, quick bursts of energy foods, I'm going to put quote unquote, burst of energy foods that you like to eat while you're on the run? And it doesn't have to be, especially during the holidays, but when you're busy, you're a parent, you're a mom, and you're like, what are your go-tos? Like,
my go-to would be a smoothie that's made of banana, blueberries, water, and chia seeds, because it's quick and easy. The blueberries are kept in the freezer. I've nearly always got bananas at home. water.
And they're easy to make too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one of those ninjas, and you just chuck it all in and it's done.
Yep.
But I keep protein bars in the pantry, but yeah, the food's really hard, isn't it? Because when you're outsourcing, you're constantly out on the run, and if you don't make the effort to be prepared, you end up just stopping at McDonald's or.
No, you're right. Because last week, I think I stopped. I told Louise in 2 days I stopped to eat hamburgers, and I'm just like, why did I do that? Because I'm going to go through a meat coma, and it makes my energy.
It definitely does, and I've noticed that lately. Like, I've been eating probably more poorly than usual because I've been so busy, and I haven't been prepped enough with my lunches. And now I'm going in and out to the storage units, and then I'm going sourcing, and then I have to go out posting, and I'm stopping at the petrol station. I'm grabbing bottles of Coke, and like, it really does start to affect you can feel your energy levels dropping. I know I eat better, that my energy levels are so much up, and you've got to be self-aware and make that reminder to pull back and go back to those habits. Yeah.
I love that you said that. That's a key thing about habits. You talked about, something that's good to be mindful of, and it's, I don't want to segregate anybody like within the age range, whether you're young or older or middle age, whatever. But I think eating healthy is just something that we all come to a point in our life and go, do I really need to be eating that stuff?
Yeah.
And now that we're talking about stress, do you have any like thoughts on stress eating?
Oh yeah.
I think we can all relate to that.
How about it now? I'm one. I right now I got a bag of these things. Thank God I hide them. It's like everybody knows about these things. It's like when I get so nervous, like I gotta put something in my mouth. It's like, What's your go-to? Go ahead.
M&Ms, maybe. I like to eat cheese, which you don't probably have there in. I don't think you've got them in America, but they're like cheese rings. But yeah, I don't. For me as well.
Now we're talking about food.
For me, I think the more stressed I get, the more I go for another Coke or another coffee, and then I can get to the end of the day. I go, I haven't even drunk any water, and so when you're not drinking enough water, your head's not clear, your brain's foggy, and it's just that you have to be so self-aware in so many aspects, don't you? And coming right back to food, not just everything else that's surrounding you. It's kind of the basics, isn't it?
And it's interesting because, now, like I said, I might as well just make this about fourth quarter because we're in the middle of it and how to get through it. And, and I think, listening to you talk about, I was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, you did this wonderful talk about just steering clear of negativity, and I look, stress is one of the worst things you can do that can really lead to aggressive negativity, and like in our body, like you said, you use the word energy. And I think just being mindful of that. I mean, do you have any input or anything about that you'd like to say in terms of just, trying to like just really be aware of it? Go ahead.
You have to be self-aware. You have to be able to recognize when you're in a state of what I would almost call, I get into a state of manic, where everything's rushed and I've got too much on my plate and I'm doing a million things at once, and I kind of get into these manic states, and I can actually get to the point now where I recognize when I'm in that state, and I have to pull myself back and take that time out to just refresh, clear my head, do something that's good for me, that steps away from reselling. And sometimes you have to step away from the reselling community for a little bit because
yes,
you have to recognize when things are triggering you. Like if you're in a bit of a negative headspace and then you're on Instagram and there's 5-10 people in your feed that are ranting about bad vibes, bad bad sales.
Wow. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because one of the things I was looking online and I'm thinking, what exactly, I mean, we can talk about anything. I think listening to you, you're just like, you're really one of the more mindful and conscious resellers I've ran into. And I love it because you're also our first guest that is non-American. So, I think it's so imperative that there is no segregation here. You know,
Nope.
when you're a reseller, you're reselling, and we are going global really quick.
Yeah.
I think in a matter of 10 to 20 years, it doesn't really matter. I think we're going to have things worked out. Things are going to be a little smoother, hopefully.
Yeah.
But you mentioned something. What was it? Yeah, just knowing when to, you know, your quantity of events was something I was reading about stress specifically in terms of negativity. Are your quantity of events don't cause that stress, but I guess it's when they're back to back. That's when that can cause stress. Like, you ever have that FOMO and you're on YouTube and you're like, I want to watch this show and I want to watch this live. There's this live, and then you realize, they're all back to back.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, you know, do you remember when you were starting YouTube or just starting to watch a lot of YouTube? Do you remember that feeling?
Yeah, when I started YouTube, I had such a fear of missing out, and I was in every single live stream, and I was jumping on live streams left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And it actually also really started to affect my family life, because my
I'm glad you said that.
He was like, "What is going on with all this like YouTube? Are you actually working?" And I think it does. You got. I think everybody goes through that stage once you get into YouTube and you start doing your channel. And then you start to come back to reality and go, like, I actually have to work, and I have to make money, and this is great, but you end up now. Most of the stuff on YouTube that I watch now is more. I've gone back from just joining. If I go into a live stream, I get very distracted and I find it hard. So I like to watch them back so that I'm not actually in the live chat, but I still watch them back, but I'm not distracted by the live chat and jumping in and stopping what I'm doing. So I think
it's sort of a learning process for like those who either like been involved with YouTube for a while, but like when you're first there may be a little bit of FOMO, and that to me can cause stress. To me, FOMO, like fear, which is those who are not familiar with this that maybe watch this later on, or anybody in the live chat, which I think most of us know, FOMO is an acronym that means fear of missing out. Mm-hmm. Fear is one of the centralized, I think, causes for negativity because it divides us. Yep. Fear separates our mind to think, oh, I have this or I don't have this, you know, and it's like, that's when I noticed, I think like you just said, like probably about 2 weeks ago, I went, I'm not even turning this. I told Luis, I said, Luis, you're not going to hear from me. If you want to get a hold of me, call me on the phone, because I'm not answering. I'm not going to go online. I need to detox. You know, there's this kind of like, do I really need to watch this? You know, it's like that quantity of events, the question I was asking, you know, that's, you go ahead. No.
Like, your time is money. Time is very important. You need to really make sure that the stuff you are watching as well is adding you some value. So I think that's why I always really, in my live streams, I really try and make sure if somebody's going to give up an hour of their time to sit there and watch my live stream, away from it, or they get some kind of value from it, that it's not they're waffling talk. I mean, I do waffle, but I hope it's not just me absolutely waffling, just like out, because I really want them to come into my chat and look at something, or ask me a question, or ask somebody else, and just take something away so that they're getting some value of that time that they're in my stream.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let me take a quick pause here, because just in about a second, I've been ignoring the live chat, and I've been putting them up, but at the same time, I think it's talking about mindfulness. I always find it's a distraction while like our guest is talking, then I'm putting up what the live is saying, and it's like almost like mandatory to listen to what Mel's saying and also listen to our live. You know, and it's like it's this arduous. It's really this place is so weird. Do you remember Max Headroom, or are you too young to remember that? Do you remember? Max Headroom came from the UK, but it was an American actor, and Max Headroom was this like computer guy in a tube. I bet you if you saw it, you would say, "Oh, I think I know that." But it's like we're living in this reality. But you know, of course, some of it we're living in this reality for different reasons, because technology creates that bridge to us. But back to what you were saying, there's this, you know, is attending mandatory? You know, that's another question that brings me to ask. Like you were saying, I would love for people to come to my live and learn something. And there's, you know, I mean, we're not just entertaining. Some of us want to bring good content. And I think That's why I love watching a lot. What you often offer, you offer a lot of suggestions. You're not trying to teach so much, but you say, here's something I can suggest to you. Take it as fodder and, use it. And I think, when I was looking up ideas about how do you avoid stress? Well, always ask those questions. Like somebody goes, oh, Louis or the Louis, we're sorry we missed your live. And we're like, don't be sorry. First of all, don't be sorry.
Yep.
You're not obligated. It's not a mandatory thing. And it's recorded. You can watch it
whenever you got
it's
time.
easier for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me just say hi real quick. We got Emily Conway in the house. She's wonderful. She talks about mental well-being and mental health. Although she's like, kids are resting and I wanted to come in for one. Oh, thank you. And she says,
awesome,
hi,
Emily. Hi, Emily.
I love
Thanks for
her,
coming
man.
in. Emily the rock star.
What's that, Mel?
Instagram and TikTok, and she's fun.
She is. And she was our first guest. She really, she kicked it up for a start here. And Out Country Sales, they're wonderful too. Duncan VR. Do you know Duncan?
I think Duncan will make you a next time you're on my chat.
I know, that's what I was laughing at earlier when I saw that.
Love social media detox. Oh. Thank you, Braun, for saying that.
Yes,
what's that, Mel?
That's right.
I was saying, when you're on StreamYard, you can't actually make spanners. You have to go back into your YouTube. To make So I'm not very good at making them, but Braun is another one who's very into, she goes to stages with YouTube. She gets very triggered by a lot of it, and she has to pull back and very self-aware. And she's actually taken herself off all of Instagram and everything for the last couple of months to clear away.
Awesome. But that's good when you have people around you, and it's like it's hard for us because some of us we make great friends, and some of us are like I for the most part I have a relationship outside of YouTube. I have my family and a daughter, but when you're far away, you need these things to kind of help lessen the stresses. We need bonding, we need relationship, we need people that we can identify with.
Yep.
But I love that, Braun. Even though, but she has a YouTube channel. Did you say?
No, she did have one for a little while, but she's pulled it all and everything. But yeah, she's even very good because we talk daily, and she'll sometimes even say to me, "I'm triggered today. Like no YouTube, no community talk, no reseller talk. Let's hustle. Let's just hustle." So
that's good because it's that back to that question. Braun is like that friend that's not part of YouTube that can help you ground yourself and say, hey, is this quantity events really required? It's like, is it mandatory that we attend it? No, it's like, it's kind of like when your husband says, what's going on, Mel? It's like, it's a craziness, but it's like, it's a deserving world in doses. There's so much gold here, but it's like, how do we balance those arduous things? So we got, look who showed up, Tat Doctor. And he's wearing his, I love Ian. It's Ian, right? Yeah. I love him.
He actually has a question for you, Louie.
Okay, let me go back. Is it back up a little bit more?
No, it's a newer one, but you can go back up a little bit.
Let me just real quick, I'm going to say, I think we got everybody here.
There's something that Global Voodoo posted on, you have to kind of go back up a little bit about Q4 that you should share. There you go. Here? I think this is important.
Mike here is Global Voodoo. He is one of our really unique YouTube friends here. And hopefully if you're still here, Mike, listening, so we're just addressing this. People need to stop thinking Q4 is money. The money is here every day. That's true. Yeah, that's but it isn't just Q4, but I do get caught up in that little spider web there. Let me go back down. And where was this other question? Was it?
It's he just posted it. It should be down where your messages are on the chat.
Okay. Let me just see.
It was a Tat Doctor.
Sure. Okay, I was going not down far enough, but I see a couple others. What's this one? Oh, typically Mondays are my social media detox. You know what? That's funny is because after Emily was on our show, Mel, she texted Luis and I. She says, "Guess what? You guys encouraged me." And for like weeks, except for today, she stays off. She stays off of pretty much anything that's a screen. So it could be TV, computer, her phone. I thought that's a wonderful thought. Who could do that in today's age?
I mean, it's really hard when you're in the business of an online business and everything around it, and especially when like she uses everything for her growth. And it's really hard to get back to that limit yourself so that you're only doing what you need for your business and not getting caught up in it.
Okay, Luis, I don't know. A little bit of what I hear from them sometimes interferes with MEL. Maybe they can just, maybe you can ask them for a second. They can, okay, let me see here. Oh, there we go. So that was, but I was just, I was finishing reading this. I love her. She says it's nice to have more mental clarity. Ron she seems like a very self-aware person. And is this the question? Where did it go? I just skipped Tat Doctor there. Ian, is this the one question for Louie?
Yeah, there you go.
Is it difficult being young on YouTube? What's he talking about? Is that the question you were talking? Oh, yep. I wouldn't know. I'm telling you. I feel like I'm getting older every day. So here we go. My Q4 already ended. Yeah. That's what you were kind of talking about, weren't you?
Yeah, you just got to try and stay consistent all year round. You know, I think consistency is the key. If you get an extra boost during Q4, that's fantastic. But we just got to remember that this is like somebody else said, 365-day job, and we've just got to stay consistent the whole way through. The more consistent we are, the more, stable our sales stay.
I like that. I totally agree with that. Let me see how we're doing on time, because I want to be respectful of your time, and I know we all have things going on.
We're good, so.
Okay, so what I was going to do is we're going to kind of let's go off on. Do you have any? We're going to kind of play a game here. I got 8 answers, okay, and talking about stress as a form of negativity. Do you have any tips, Mel, that you would like to talk about that might help prevent? This is for both resellers and non-resellers alike. They kind of help us prevent holiday stress, especially in the next few weeks to come. Although you don't probably celebrate this at all, or unless you have a holiday that's similar to our Thanksgiving. It's one of the big stress ones here. I'm telling you, like, people freak out and whatnot. And I'm going to confess, my mom, she just went into the hospital today. She, on the way to rushing to go see some family, which I was supposed to meet up with, she had a really bad fall. So, part of this whole stress thing is, and that adds to the more stress because then the whole family's involved and whatnot. And so, it just keeps me thinking, what kind of preventative measures, so we can stay out of that realm of just part of the stress of rushing, let's say, but like what around the holiday, any kind of stress, what would you say?
I think you got to plan. You got to plan your weeks out and your days out, I think. And I do everything kind of via batching. So I think even things like when you're at home, like I know that coming up December is like a crazy thing, not only for business but personal stuff. Like it's the end of year with school, the kids are finishing up, we've got graduation.
Exactly.
Formals, I've got Christmas parties, I've got family functions on. There's a million things that happen all the time. So I know that in the next week I'm going to batch up and just cook a whole heap of dinners and put them in the freezer so everybody can just grab them. So I don't have to stress on those days that are busy or I'm trying to work, even extra hard because I know that the next couple of days I've got other functions on and I'm not going to be able to work as much. So I need to be kind of able to plan ahead for things like that.
Perfect. Real quick, I'm going to interject on you just 2 seconds. Part of the game is, so I have eight answers, and I told these to Luis. And so every time you hit one on the target, I'm gonna ring this. It's like, so you got one of them so far, and that was planning ahead. It's so imperative. I'm glad you mentioned that because just even as resellers, just making sure we have our plans like, okay, before I go on to this next task, just get things in order. What is the most, important thing? I think, making priorities, but like you said, with their families and, ordeals and things going on, it's amazing. Is there anything else that you think you can think of that would help us prevent holiday stress? Stress sometimes can lead us to depression and stuff.
Oh, for sure. Like stress is just, I talked about it in my chat last week. I talked about doing a brain dump, which is basically every single Monday after I drop my daughter at school, I go off to the local cafe, I take a notepad and a pen, and I literally just dump everything out of my brain that needs to get out, everything that is overwhelming me. Because if I've got in my mind, then it's like your cup is full, and you can't focus on what's actually important and what actually needs to get done. So every Monday morning I kind of go and I upload for the whole week and get it all down on paper. And then once everything's out of my mind, I can actually sit there and look at the paper and prioritize those first three things that are important, that actually are going to make me productive and get my stuff actually done.
Really good.
Because otherwise you just get you get so many ideas and so many little things in your head that you can't work out what's actually important to do. And in business, the most important thing to do is to make money. So you need to make sure that the tasks that you're doing are actually helping you to make money.
It's sort of so there's a spiritual practice that I do with my community where I live, and one of them, we call it, like, some people unconsciously do it, like when, like, let's say you're getting in a fight with somebody or an argument, there's this thing they call what is it called? It's called like the unloading of the unconsciousness. It's just like where something kind of comes out, and then you realize, oh, there's the real problem. So, but back to what you were talking about, like just writing stuff down, it's sort of a purging, but it's in a way where you consciously say, I'm going to settle down. You find a nice quiet space. Some people look at it as their Zen space, or after they do yoga or meditate or pray or whatever it is that they'd like to do. Getting to that space, sometimes just go to a simple coffee shop, So real quick, I think you hit not one, but I think you hit two. So you're like three. I think she had two. Yeah, so one was acknowledge one's feelings. Sometimes that kind of comes out too. Like, I'm so frustrated. I got to deal with this ordeal because those packages never came in, or I got to do a return or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like you're talking about, Christopher of Daily Refinement talked about keeping a journal. That's so just writing it down, whether it's a stack of papers or you keep it in your computer or something like that. And I'm wondering if part of it kind of comes out to just it's important to be realistic. And I think in order to be realistic, how do you know until you write stuff down?
Yes. Yeah, because you can have that's a huge issue with people, setting your expectations too high, and then you can't meet the goal or whatever it is. You can't meet it, and then you feel like you've failed, which makes you feel flat, makes you feel down. It's not you need things that are going to mood boost you, and and by, like you said, by doing that, it's like, it's kind of, how do you see your expectations? It's like looking at, well, what is my goal? Well, if you don't break your goals up into to like little daily aims, which can, it's like, I always say this, it's redundant, but it's like an archer. And it's like, if you're trying to hit that target, but you keep hitting, 50s and 40s and 30s and going down, you got to practice, but dissecting it too sometimes can kind of go, that's kind of a big thing to bite off. Why don't I break it down to these little subtle things of how can I, instead of looking at the death pile, look at categories of the death pile or something like that. Right, or and saying, I want to earn $10,000 a month on eBay, but then when you work out that your average sale is $20, well, that works out that you've got to sell this many things. So maybe you've got to lower that expectation and go, okay, maybe that's too hard for me. I'm not that much of a volume store or something. I need to pull it back to like half the amount and be realistic and grow each stage of the way.
So I'm going to give you another one. I'm going to say it's 4. So you're halfway there out of 8, because what you were talking about, like breaking it down, not so much the writing it down, but that kind of falls under the budget, I think, because even as a reseller, knowing what you need to make in sales, that is part of your budgeting scheme. Like, I want to do this. Well, okay, I'm going to be realistic, but then you really got to break it down. Like you said, how many do I need to sell? What is it? And am I selling good stuff? And so it kind of falls into that criteria where you're really looking at it from this angle, and then monetarily, is it going to be perceived in the right way? Where, like you said, well, I can't sell 50,000 of these. Well, then you better up your game and find something you can sell. That's gonna. So.
You to look at something and go, okay, well, realistically, I have to sell 10 things a day for this amount of money. Can I do that? And then that's easier than looking at an overall amount, huge amount, and going, I want to earn this much money. Break it down and have those smaller things to be able to achieve, and it becomes so much less stressful.
Yeah. And that kind of is a 2-in-1 where you said, like, when you're able to do that and it becomes less stressful, that's like knowing how to set your it's a form of knowing how to set aside what your differences are. And like your differences is if you're looking at yourself and you're realizing I'm not feeling good. I'm okay. What is it? Okay, I have already ate. I'm not that. It's this. Okay, mentally I'm stressing out. What is it you're stressing? It's my business. If you're not able to, we have this saying like in like Zen meditation. If you're not able to change your direction of the way you're looking, you can't make an observation clear and poignant. So you can be very like able to let the mist distill. So knowing how to set like any kind of differences aside, whether it's a mental block, and sometimes that mental block is what's stopping you from kind of getting to that point of like, this is not going to work for me. Well, okay, what are you going to do about it? You're going to sit there and complain all day. So you kind of said that in one roundabout way or another. It's like, can I look at it so I can not stress about it? And I think I think we forget to take those steps back. I mean, it's important. Stress is a big killer. It
is.
It kills our time. Go ahead,
Mel.
Please jump in.
Go ahead, Mel.
I was just going to say, I think one of the biggest other things for avoiding stress is boundaries. Like,
say that again.
Boundaries. Setting
Oh,
your
yes.
Learning how to say no to things that, like either aren't important, that you don't want to do, that don't bring you joy, or just, it can be really, really hard to say no to something.
You hit another one. That's learn when to say no. And that can be setting a boundary,
Absolutely. That's learn when to say no. That is your boundary. You have to have, not only do you have to have business boundaries, like you have to remember you're your own boss. So the rules of this business are up to you, but you need to set those boundaries, and then you actually need to follow through with them. If you were working for another company and they had the boundaries and the rules, you would follow the rules. But because we work for ourselves, it's easy to just kind of go, oh, okay, I'll do that, or I won't do that. But it's exactly the same in our personal life as well. We have to have boundaries where we say, no, like that's not acceptable, or no, I don't want to be talked to like that, or no, I don't want to do that. And I think once you actually learn to start saying no, and I understand it's a hard thing to do. I had trouble for years being able to say no to people. And once I actually learned to say, once you practice it a few times and you say no, then it becomes easier and easier. And then the more you say it, it's like a weight off you.
It is. It's sometimes and that's where that psychological, like knowing how to set aside your differences, like even your differences, you're saying, oh, I don't want to hurt that person's feelings or what. I get that's a difference, but how is that benefiting them if you let them keep causing that habit to reconstruct, and then it becomes an issue for you because the boundary is something you either didn't set, in a polite manner, and say, okay, this just isn't going to work for me. Like one of the best things I said, learning to say no is, hey, can I consider this? That's not saying yes. And if they come back, well, you said no, I never said that. I said, can I consider this? And I need time to think about it. Well, and then they're persistent and you're like, I think I better say no then, if you're not going to let me have that time to breathe. Oh, no, take all, because a respectful person gets that. It's like, oh, well, Mel's, she's got her children and, maybe she needs to discuss this with her partner or her husband and say, in business, business has to come first before friends sometimes. And I don't think people realize that. And,
I think pay, don't you? You got to pay bills. So, we do sometimes have to, we always want our bills to come first, but we still, at the end of the day, we've got to pay our bills and get our work done.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because one of the big things I hear about YouTube is I got to go away for a while. And people are like, well, I got to worry about the business. It's like, yeah, it's like you can't list if you're on YouTube all day long, or whatever, even. It's
really easy to get caught up in the YouTube and want to build your YouTube, which doesn't make very much money to start with. And then your eBay store suffers, your reselling suffers, and you've got to kind of work hard to pull it back up. So it's hard to find that balance, and YouTube can be a big time suck, and it can be a huge distraction. And when your mind is distracted, that's when you'll start to become overwhelmed, because everything else falls out of place, and you've got no direction. So I'd love to make more YouTube videos than I do every week.
I think we all do. But what is our intentions for being here? I've asked this in the past, not just, I'm bringing it up for you as as our guest, but which I know I'm already preaching to the choir. You've entertained this thought. I know you have. But it's like, what is our real intentions for being here? I mean, yes, we have something, we have a voice and we want to share something, but do we need to do it now? And sometimes you just got to go, like for me, I'm in no hurry, and I'm surprised I have as many followers as I do. But I told Luis this show is so important, but also Luis and I have a policy, and if family has to come first. Like there was the week that Christopher was here, something happened, and I said, Luis, you need to go and you need to take care of that. Yep. I will. Luckily, it was on my show. We alternate, by the way. So next week it'll be on his channel, and so. But we also said if anything comes down to it, we'll reach out to another YouTube friend if they, if it's not a boundary issue, and say, hey, do you mind being a guest host that day, and going live? But it's like sometimes you just have to go. Can't do it. Bye. It's scheduled, but it's not going to happen.
Well, it's like when you asked me first if I could come on this like a week or so ago, and I was like, oh, it's my daughter's birthday that day. I'll be stressed if I have to, come live.
I was so happy you told me that because, you have to respect a person that knows their yeses and their nos. They know what they want. And it took me so long to realize it because somebody did that for me. I was at a men's retreat where it was a silent retreat, and they were going in a big circle. And everybody was doing some sharing, and I was like, it was some pretty deep sharing. And I was like, and it was about one or two people from me, and I was like, I have to get up and go. I have to go to the bathroom, and I got out, and everybody thought, oh, he's just trying to get out of this. And I'm like, no, I had to go to the bathroom, and I couldn't hold it anymore. There's like 20 guys talking, and I'm like, I just got to go to the bathroom. And when I came back, I apologized to the person I missed the talk to, and really delightful man. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he goes, no, don't apologize. You have to respect a man that knows what he needs to do, and it's like, if a person, a person that knows what they need, then you just have to, there's nothing to criticize. So we got Nitpick Thrift here. She says, hello.
Got a couple other people that came in too. Yep.
Oh my gosh. We got a lot of people in here today. They've been going and coming, and this is wonderful. Two dudes picking, busy today off, working all day on eBay. That's awesome. Real Hustle was here. We're excited to have you, and thank you for taking your time. I know this is not necessarily the best opportune time for you, Mel, but hopefully even just talking about this is kind of like something that'll kind of be fodder for, the future, and just, for all of us to, and maybe there's seeds that are planting that'll go back to stuff that affects us all, that we can share in our YouTube world. But more importantly, I think it's just so important that we cross-pollinate as resellers. And I told Luis, if we're going to have this show, it's for anybody. Well, then if anybody, that means crossing boundaries. And it's like, it's not strictly, I kept saying, the first time I met you, Mel, you and I were over, I think it was on Andrew's Live, and he's in the UK. But I was like, you're not from the UK. I can tell by your voice. We were just having a good old time on a live. And I thought, I love this because we live in a world where there really is this difference of boundaries in the way we can now talk openly. And we all share the same ideas, providing we have the same, let's just say we don't have a language barrier. We don't, once in a while I may go, what are you talking about? We don't.
Some people do say that to me in America, that they're like, I can't understand her. So
tough luck.
The difference, but like with the reselling communities, we all do the same thing. Like we might source different brands and things, but at the end of the day, we're all in the same role. We're all in the same job. We're all got the same problems. We're all dealing with buyers and trying to source stock, and things are different, but it's the same. And that's why I think the community can really come together. And I think that's why a lot of the time as well, I try and talk about more general topics and business and things that are related that can hopefully relate to everyone, rather than
like about a week or two ago, you were talking about negativity. I'm like, that's a worldly topic. We all don't want that in our lives.
I don't think there's enough, like with the reseller community, everybody's sharing their hauls and their what solds and their, thrift with me, and it's a lot of recycled content. And so it's hard to kind of make yourself be different in a community where everyone's doing a lot of the same stuff. But I think there's not very many that are coming back and talking about the other aspects of business and the mindfulness and being self-aware and just not as eBay as such, but as a business and the problems that come with business, and being mindful and being self-aware and taking time for self-care is important in any type of business. And reselling, is just, at the end of the day, it's just another business that we're all self-managing.
It's another business, but we're all human beings and we all bleed, and it's like we all have emotional, matters that are close to the heart, and so like we have a saying that's from one of my, he was one of my mentors, and he had written this book called Open Mind, Open Heart, but it was very Buddhist, but he wasn't Buddhist. That's a funny thing, and it was like, oh, that's, what a great strategy is, like, you can have all this practicality in your mind, and I think whether it's from a business perspective or not, but if you don't take it to heart and put it into practice, and then also do it in a compassionate, in a unique way, your business is going to probably just, dry up, or just not go far.
And people really need to learn, like I make sure I have a good balance between watching other reselling channels, but I'm also watching a lot of stuff on YouTube that is about self-care, motivation, hustle, being productive, all those kind of podcasts or YouTube chats. I love, and just so you're learning about other industries, but how they learn and how they grow their business. And I think that's so important that a lot of resellers forget to do. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the business is, you can take those tips from other people who are working for themselves and bring it into your own business. And it's nice to step away from not just being 100% reselling. So listen to other, like I love listening to like Lewis Howes. I don't know if you know him, big American.
Okay. I think I know of him a little bit, but I don't follow him.
So he just kind of does interviews with big names, like, and it's just, I enjoy listening to stuff like that. And I watch a lot of channels even about YouTube strategies and growing and just other ways to grow in business besides reselling.
Yeah, and it's also just a realistic way of, like, aside from the technology, but it's also like kind of going, okay, if I'm going to be serious about this and my intention is to take this to a whole different level, but like just being able to kind of catch up and not fumble in the whole, awkwardness of this thing. Because, there is a transparency of it. Like, people know when you know something or you don't, and they can see because you're just not really being the best part of who you are, and so, I mean, so getting to run into another reseller like she's really interested. She's serious about just improvement. Yeah, to me, that's nothing to do with being a reseller. That has to just do with being a really good human being. Yep. I'm sorry, you were going to say?
Yeah, just reading like self-help books and stuff. You've got to. I love doing stuff like that. I love talking to other people who have interests in that as well, because there's nothing nicer than talking to somebody else who wants to better themselves and self-improve and who actually listens to learn and takes things critically and critical critique, you can it's good to have people in your life that can bring you back and remind you, like when you need to, like my friend Bron, she reminds me, she can tell when I'm getting a bit manic about things. She'll say, I had another idea for a YouTube the other day. I want to do another YouTube channel at some stage. And she was just like, Mel, let's just slow down a bit.
Take your shoes off and step on the ground.
Yeah.
2020. Then next year we start talking about your new channel and so it's good to have.
See, it's one thing to write it down in a book, which is good, and you probably should. And I won't say should. It'd probably be in our best interest to do that, right? But having that friend, how awesome is that? Because even and I keep mentioning because he's a buddy of ours, he's a mutual friend of ours, but him probably better because you're in his one of his groups. Is Christopher? He talks about it is so transforming to have one YouTube friend and another reseller friend. You get to bounce these ideas back off of, because they'll talk to you like, do you really want to do that? What about your family? Or what about they bring it back to earth.
Yeah, I think you've got to be careful you've got to find that inner circle that you can really trust and And you've got to be able to share, you know, like I obviously don't want to share all aspects of my business with the whole wider community, because then it just ends up spoiling my business because people, you know, do the same thing. But you know, I still have to have that inner circle of people that I can confide in so that I can grow my business as well without feeling like I'm being hindered by, you know, sharing too much. So yeah, being part of the community, it is hard to get in. Nick's one of the people in my inner circle. Like I
love Nick and Andrea. They're wonderful. I mean, see, and this is what I'm talking about. Like it's if you're in this live chat and you're watching it later on and you're not from, or let's say if you're from America, get out of the context of just only watching American YouTubers, because there's so many people. I don't care if you watch somebody from, you know, India or Africa or whatever, you know, or you know, it could be South America or whatever. Central America, but just watch somebody, because these fine folks. One thing I like about Nick, I adore him. He probably thinks I'm nuts, but I love him because he loves Depeche Mode. And then so when I go into live chats, they're like, "Oh God, don't talk about Depeche Mode like Nick," you know. And I'm like, "Hey, don't leave Nick alone," because you know. And it's just but what he said is so imperative. It's like, oh man, we share that mouth. We have more ideas than we have time for.
And it's important to surround yourself with good people, and Nick and Andrea are both very good people, very humble, very giving to the community. Yeah.
You're guess what? You got 7 out of 8.
7. Yep.
7 was that was reaching out. So like connecting with other like-minded folks. I mean, having those folks. And the reason I'm ringing the bell, for those of you who came in late, we were kind of doing this like informal game with Mel, where I wanted to do something different in the program, where we have like a topic and we're talking about negativity and stress is a form of negativity, and you know, just talking about it, bringing it out, throwing it out in the carpet, and we could dust it a little bit, but you know, you talked about this. So we talked about acknowledging one's feelings, you know, being able to reach out, which is having a connectivity, you know, of somebody. Important of being realistic. You know, how important is that? You know, knowing how to set our. Please go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Mel.
I'm one of those people that interrupt. Building your inner circle with people that actually motivate you and push you. I think sometimes you can get caught up in the community with trying to build friendships with people just to build subs. Do you know what I mean? And you don't want that. You want to find those people that you can connect to and that you like as real people, and that you want to go and sit down and actually meet and hang out with, and you can talk to. And but you obviously know Chris from Daily Refinement. I reached out to Chris, you know, because I've followed him for a long time, and I just love that business mind that he has. That isn't all about reselling. It's about, doesn't matter what business it is, you could implement that into your business. And so that's why I gravitate to Chris. He's a real hustle. But then on the other spectrum, I gravitate to Nick, who's all about finding the more calmer life balance and doesn't want to work so hard. And he's just so, it's like yin and yang there. So you gravitate to different people for different
But it takes, you know, if you look at the symbol of yin yang, some people say yin yang, I say, but it's actually one unified symbol. If people look at it as if it were two different things, but it's like it takes the light to make the dark. And it's good that we're talking about this, because when we talk about fourth quarter, we're talking about a particular amount of months. Usually it's around October, November, and December, and that's when a lot of the light changes. A lot of spiritual festivals go on from all different traditions. They deal with the light. And if you're talking about yin yang, it's always that balance of like you need a little bit of the negative to understand the positive, or vice versa. You know, and so it's not that it's negative or positive, just like one aspect to another. You know, it's like that counterbalance. And yeah, Nick, his realism is interesting. When I hear him talk, I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. From then, he's very wise, you know, in the way he approaches things. You know, he's so fun to listen to. He'll probably never admit it. Now, the Tad Doctor, Ian, on the other hand, I love his absurdity. You know, he's just it's beautiful, because his form of British humor, like he's like, you probably don't. I'm like, don't. I do understand you. It's like, I love that it's not a cynicism. It's just this healthy dose of like, you know, looking at something that is absurd, but it's like, it makes you realize, it's a
Yep.
form of humor. It's like, it's just so brilliant. And it is. Oh, Bad Biscuit is here. She says, bloody hippie Nick. Oops. Good thing I didn't show that.
Yeah.
Gary is going to do another channel about fixing up his new Jeep Dixie Overland. Oh, Lord have mercy.
That's awesome.
Real quick. So we got through most of those. I think you got them all. I want to say, in a way, I'm giving this to you. But I think you did it in a way, from everything you've talked about, Mel. Maybe you didn't say these words, but you brought it up, which is the last one that you didn't say per se, but you said it without words, was don't abandon healthy habits. And that was, kind of when you brought up Christopher. It was like the one reason I like him. Christopher's about what?
Yep.
He's all about, Chris is a good balance because he's very business minded. He's very about building your business and, taking control of your business. But he's also so focused on eating well, making sure he stays up to date with his fitness, because he knows that he can't be as productive and he can't focus if he is not feeling great about himself, or if he's not well fed. Do you know what I mean? Like, and all that kind of stuff.
That's exactly why I brought him up as an example. Because any gentleman that said, I'm going to change my name on YouTube and call it a daily refinement, that is definitely about not abandoning any healthy habits. He's about it, and he admits that he has had habits. Like, one was, he said, I had a FOMO. He's like, and that's probably one of his he said, his issues is that he's, always, I want to try it all. He was telling me, and I was like, that could be a good and a bad thing, but I, and I get why, but we all have our issues. Like, even said, like, just have a healthy go-to food thing, that if you can't cook dinner that night, better have something you can pull out of your refrigerator or something, it's just quick and easy and but it's like
relationships with other people, I think is, that is a massive thing in your mind. Don't surround yourself with negative people. Don't surround yourself with toxic people. And even remove yourself sometimes from those Facebook groups that are constantly just, like, I sometimes look at the Facebook groups and just kind of go, stop whinging. Like, everything's on there. I can't do this and I can't do that. And not only does that feed into everybody else's feed, like, other people sit in there and go, oh yeah, that's the same with me, and that's the same with me, and then it becomes like a vicious circle. So be very self-aware of who you're following, what you're following in the groups. And I really do try hard on my Instagram not to put out things that are too neat. I mean, every now and then I have a bit of a bad day and I might do a vent, but on my story. But most of the time I try and keep it very positive and upbeat. And
well, if anything, make it productive. Like, if it's not that you're trying to lament or complain, which it's okay. I think it's healthy to go ahead and, like, it's a purge. But we have books for it, like you said, and you have those friends that are outside. Like your one friend, she could, Mel, really, like Louie. So even like he'll say, "Are you, you want to check in? You want to do, what's going on?" And it's, we call each other, and it's like, it's really nice to have a friend just say, "Hey, how's it going?" And
even with me the other day, I had a bit of a vent about something, and Nick kind of sent me a message after he saw it on my story. He's like, Mel, do you really want to go there? You're just going to encourage. So, thanks to Nick.
But that's so precious to have somebody that's, to understand your vulnerability and to do it in a non-critical way. So one of my practices of mindfulness is, can you observe something in a non-critical way? And usually it's generally, it's like what I observe within, like, mentally what's going, like, why did I have that thought? Instead of saying, oh, you're an a-hole for thinking that, no, it's not about that. Or, whatever, it could be even a dark thought or whatever, or just a silly random, like, and it's like, why am I thinking that? Do I really need to waste my time wobbling over, like, they got this or that, or, it's just like, but can you mindfully look at yourself in a non-critical way and go, let me examine that. It's constant examination. I think if we can just sit there and go ahead.
Self-awareness is just, isn't it? It's just tuning into yourself and knowing, like, okay, I'm feeling a bit scatterbrained here. I'm a bit up and down. Like, I'm going from negative to positive. I got too many ideas going through my head. I need to bring back down to reality. Even that, just going out for a walk. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to now get up in the mornings and go for a walk before I start my day, because I'm not getting out to go for. I get caught up in the day. Drop my kids at school, like the day's busy, and then I'm still working. I pick the kids up. I'm still working in the afternoon, and I'm working too late at the moment. I'm working till 9 o'clock. Like, no time for me, so I need to fit that in.
See this guy I'm pointing to here? He's full-time reseller. He's a principal. He's a teacher. See, there goes the phone.
No, that's okay. You go wait.
And it's like, and he has a Zoom meeting right now. Probably needs to go to. It's like, oh, I think that's our alarm time. And
it is.
We can talk more, and I would love to. And I just want to be respectful of your time. And also, I think today we're just going to kind of call it shorts. But would you be interested maybe in the next time, maybe in the next year sometime? You come back, we can pick a topic that you're even really want to dig into more, and we can just have fun with it.
I'd love
Definitely.
to. I'll come back anytime.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Maybe we'll have another guest that also is a non-reseller. We can just really dig into a meaty topic about, like you said, self-observation is something. You're one of the few that I've heard talk about that, Mel, and I'm grateful to you for that. To let this community know that there are tools and practical things in life that can making life easier, but making what we're doing as resellers just a little bit less stressful.
I think that's interesting what you just said there about non-resellers, because I've actually got 2 that are planned to come up on my channel. We're just trying to work out dates, and one of them is my brother, who is like he's like my rock in business, but he's obviously not a reseller, but he is self-employed, and he has done so much self-improvement, so much. He's been to the psychologist, he's had psychotherapy, he's studying psychotherapy now, and he's also owns his own real estate agency, and his business knowledge can reflect to anyone in a reselling community. I think it's good to other people that study business, but I don't know. And I've got another guy that's going to come onto my channel who's a self-made millionaire property developer, but it's all about how they learn to put their focus onto the things that are important in their day, the things that are important in their business. And I'm kind of really excited to talk to people who aren't resellers as well, but who are very business-minded and very self-aware to be able to grow to that stage.
Well, we're getting people riled up in the live, and Ian, if I can ever challenge you, I will challenge you. I'll push you up into a corner.
I push well. Ian's in my inner circle as well, and I'd probably push Ian more than he would like it.
You know what? It's like I can't say, I want to be polite. I really don't know that I can say I know him, but I've had quite a few chats with him, and he's just always polite with me, and but once in a while we like to play a little bit like poking at each other, and he's somebody I would love to get to know a little bit more, and you as well in terms of our circle. And I think that was let me just tell you, one of the premises of the show was, how can we be of service to the community? How can we tighten our strength in our circles so that they're not little bubbles that we can, and make the continuity of it, where it's okay that we have, everybody has little cliques and stuff, but, you're always going to have, because, not everybody can be a friend to everybody. And it's but the thing is that we can all be friendly to each other and help each other. I think it's so important. So in saying that, everybody in the chat and Nitpick Thrift here, Nikki and Emily, they were saying, it's so great that we're talking about these things. I'm glad if it's of use to somebody, pass this on to anybody, who might, be in that mode, or we're I think they could use an ear or something like that, and be an ear to somebody else. These are just, we could probably go on for days, but I don't think we even touched the tip of it. But Mel, you are amazing in that you gave us your time and your really astute patience, I should say, because I kind of went on too. Both of us, we love to. I think we want to talk about this because we're passionate about this.
That makes a difference as when you are passionate about it, you
Mhm.
can tell. And I know when I live stream, because I live stream by myself, so you almost feel like you're just talking to you. I mean, you've got the chat, but you feel like you've got to keep talking to yourself. But that's why
But
it's
you
really
do a good job.
Yeah, they do.
I have to find those topics that I'm passionate about as well to make sure that I can actually talk about them, for a long time. So, yeah.
Yeah, and luckily you have folks that will come into the live, and there'll be at least one or two people that have some really good little nuggets
Yeah.
of, let me grab onto that real quick. That really that's a well thought out point.
Yeah.
Or just that's kind of where I'm going. Yeah. And everybody here, it's like, there's just so many, like, for example, Death by Glamour, and I love her. She's got really funny responses a lot of the time. So I'm a bit of a nomad, not really close to anybody, but friendly with everybody. Yeah, she's probably somebody that would really be there for you if you needed it. I know she would.
Like Leanne's in Ireland, so there's not many Irish resellers, so she's mainly part of the UK, I guess, reselling community, and she spreads out. She's very active in the Aussie and the American.
And now she's part of Texas and California now too.
Yeah.
The UK community have been very supportive of me right from day dot. I think it was Andrew that I met first, and they've just welcomed me into that community. So, I feel really lucky that I've made so many good friends. I never even wanted to go to, England, London, and now I just can't wait to travel over to the UK one day and meet some of these people and go to one.
And that's why you want to go there, is because it makes it even more. It's like, wow, there's a really warm heart in that specific place right there, that part of the UK or Ireland or Australia or wherever it is, and to know that there's a world full of people out there that are just, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same place. We got to take care of each other. We got to do better for each other, because this world is ever expansively growing. You're in a global economy. We don't know what to expect in the next 20 years, but I tell you what, it's probably going to grow like crazy.
Yeah.
And we'll do something good from it. I'm sure we will with folks like you, Mel. I know this is going to be an important topic to readdress and tangent off of, because there's so many different ways we can look at this and talk about. And I know that we both have passions like that. We better stop here. We want to tell everybody once again, thank you. Flipping and shipping came in, and so many.
Flipping and shipping.
Yeah, thank you guys. What would you end us with, Mel? I'm going to tell you what I usually say is, like, just maintain our focus and elevate. That's really an important strategy, I think, is not just as resellers, but people in life. In order to do that, you may have to do a little self-reflection, stepping back. But Luis, do you have something you want to finish out before we let Mel close us out?
No, I think Mel gave us a lot of insight of what she does and her point of views on a lot of the topics that you did bring up, and I can't wait to have her back. I know we just it was just a tip of the iceberg with her today, so I can't wait to bring her back and hopefully get to know her a little bit more. And hopefully everybody that's here watching this and also on replay, make sure you guys go check out Mel's channel, subscribe to her channel, follow her on Instagram, so you guys can get a better sense of what Mel is about.
If you have any questions, we are available, but Mel, I'm sure if you have a serious question you want to ask her about the topics that we talked about, just ask her, and she can, if she doesn't know, she'll point you in the right direction. But we have all the links down below. And so please do like and subscribe to some of her videos. Check her out. Mel, on that note, would you please close us out? Give us your finishing thoughts.
I just say, look after yourself. Look out for your friends as well in the community that you might be able to see, who are getting themselves into a bit of a funk or getting a little bit, a step ahead of themselves, or just look out for the other people around you. The community here can be quite overwhelming, and it can take you in different directions. So look out for those, and stay consistent, and take that time out for yourself. Go for a walk. Just be mindful and be self-aware. And if you can just remember to just remind yourself when you do notice those sporadic moods, take that deep breath, sit down, and just if you need to dump it all out on paper and get everything out so that you've got a clear head and can focus, then do it. But yeah, definitely just stay mindful and never stop growing. Like never stop your self growth. You know, read, you know, listen to things that aren't reselling related, and listen to podcasts and stuff about self growth, and just keep learning.
Listen to good music. Yeah, do other things. But I think you said it best. Just be gentle on yourself.
Yep.
It's part of being, you know, aware, you know, being mindful, and do a lot of the things that we talked about in terms of to help you lessen the stress. Thank you again, Mel. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for
And
having me. Appreciate it.
not at all. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thank you for coming to Mindful Merchants. And until next week, take care.
See you guys. Thank you.